See if we can see you over there. Yeah, we could. Okay, rotate device. I don't want to rotate device. Okay, this one's live. Hi, Facebook friends. We're going live. I have to start up Instagram and then start up YouTube. Checking connection. Okay, Instagram, you guys are the fly on the wall. Live from Normal Heights. We're going to start the camera and then we're going to start the show in a second. Okay. You're there. I'm over there. That's perfect center. It's always the red light's got to start. Go. Yes. We are live. Okay, that's live. That's live. That's live. Okay, you can sit all the way back if you want. Hey everyone, welcome to the 12th edition of Live from Normal Heights. We are here in Normal Heights, San Diego, and I'm with this incredible person with the mask. It's the first person on our show with the mask. Her name is Vanessa. Did I say that right? No, I did say it right. Vanessa Christie. And she wrote a book, and we're going to talk about her book. And she also does artwork. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, have you been to Normal Heights before?
I used to live in Normal Heights.
Oh, okay, good. Because the reason I called it Live from Normal Heights is I moved to Normal Heights, and I dated someone way, way back in the day from Normal Heights, and I always thought when she told me that she's from Normal Heights, it was so funny. And then I moved here, and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool place.
Do you think
Before
it's
the
normal?
pandemic. It was really cool. They had on Adams Avenue, they had Lestat's where we used to perform all the time. They had comedy there. They had all kinds of stuff. And this whole street was just bustling on Saturday and Sunday and Friday nights. It was just tons of people. So, how long have you lived in San Diego?
My whole life, pretty much. I mean, I went to college in LA part of the time. But pretty much I've lived in San Diego my whole life.
Wow. And what made you get into art or writing books?
Well, I've been doing art my entire life also. Starting in preschool, apparently.
Wow.
So, I'm doing some kind of more experimental things, you might say, like working with different types of oil mediums. I'm working on a style that kind of combines drawing and painting, using oil painting markers, but I haven't shown any of that yet.
Wow. Because
I want to get enough of it together first and work on the technique, get it to where I want it to be. And as far as writing goes, I didn't write any fiction until I was about 23, which is actually late. Most people who start writing fiction start when they're about 12 or...
I started when I was 5 or 6 because my brother would come home from school and he said, there's this new class I took, it's called creative writing. So everything he would do is he would teach me 3 years ahead of time what I would be learning. So he'd say, okay, we're going to write about this and that. And we'd write a creative writing thing together.
Yeah, nice.
So you say you didn't start writing fiction until later, but does that mean you wrote nonfiction?
Yeah, I wrote, essays and things like that.
Have you published any of it?
Some of it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think anywhere where you could find it. Like, student journals, things like that.
Well, what types of subjects did you like writing about?
Well, a lot of it was because I felt I had to more than wanted to. Things for the major and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. What was your major?
Political science.
Oh, me too. Well, I majored in everything. I
Mhm.
went for 10 years to junior colleges, so I took a lot of political science. I took a
Mhm.
lot of history, philosophy,
Mhm.
religion, and then I took some general like math and English, but a lot of music too. And then I decided to go to a 4-year university. I had to
Mhm.
take all the planned liberal arts curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote about
Mhm.
all philosophy and all that stuff in my books. But I wrote one novel. So when you started writing fiction
Mhm.
at a later time, you compiled a lot of that, and we'll just go right into the book. It's called, I forgot the name now. Oh yeah, Devils in the Details. The Devils in the Details. Tell us about.
Uh-huh. Well, this actually isn't the first thing that I've written. I'm waiting on a publisher for some novels that I've worked on.
Oh well.
This is the you know, I put the collection together and I got a publisher together for that.
Oh wow. Cool.
You know, I kind of took a risk on it because I had to pay for the editing and some other logistical things like that. You know, so speaking of dating someone and having it not work out, like I remember I was telling them about, oh, I'm putting together this short story collection, and they were like, well, is it going to be successful? I was like, well, I don't know. It's
How do you know that when you never published
it's a
book?
kind of a gamble. Like,
yeah, everything's a gamble.
It might work out, it might not. Like, then you think that I committed a crime. Like, it was like, well, like, what if it's not successful? It's like, well, hopefully it will be. And, I'll be honest, financially, not exactly, but at the same time, but I did get a grant from Pan America, so.
Oh, that's cool. That's a TV show or TV station.
Oh,
Pan
no,
America?
the literary organization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have happened probably if I hadn't published the collection. So
that's cool.
Things work out.
Yeah, when I released my first professional CD in 2012, I thought it was going to take off and it was going to be a big thing, and I was going to be a singer songwriter and travel the world. But it hasn't yet happened. But I keep writing music and and same with my books. I thought my novel would take off. It didn't. I didn't have a publisher. I ended up self-publishing, and I did that with my collection of writings from university. But you never know what's going to take off and what's not going to take off. You can't. No one has a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's not.
Actually, my grandpa did have a crystal ball.
He did have a crystal ball? I have a ball like that in my bathroom that's a salt ball.
Yeah, my grandpa was apparently so good at being an economist that he kept a crystal ball on his desk.
Oh, wow.
I was too young to ask about economical questions, but, apparently he was so good at guessing what was going to happen.
Wow. There was a lady, Mademoiselle something in Kyoto, Japan, who all the top CEOs during the Japan heydays in the 80s and 70s and almost 90s would go to, and she would talk to this frog in her pond. And the frog told her all the things, and that's why Japan, according to the top...
Did the frog die?
And somehow she got busted for some wrangling, some money laundering or something, and then all the economy in Japan all started falling apart.
Oh, darn.
So whether she had anything to do with the success, that's what a lot of the top business people said back in the days.
Okay, then.
But I don't know if her frog really gave her
insights.
Yeah, it's just one of the crazy things that I remember when that brought up when you said your grandpa was an economist and he had a crystal ball. Because that's what this frog did. It was like her crystal ball.
Well, anyway, like he wanted people to think that. I don't know
if he actually consulted it.
I don't know if he actually consulted it or just liked the idea of I can do magic. He was not. I will say this: he was not very good at the magic tricks that he would do for
For the family?
For the family.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you try.
But he was a cool, eccentric guy. That's good. My grandpa built a lot of the houses in down the 15 freeway. If you there's some in the hills in Rancho Bernardo. One of them burned down, and there's some further above Escondido. It was called Hidden Meadows. It's the weirdest little area you go to. You go off the freeway and you go through like nowhere land, and then all of a sudden there's this community in this little hidden meadow area, and it's got a school and it's got a golf course and it's got all this stuff, and it looks like you're in something from a 70s movie. Like they have these towns where everything is in the town, and it's no one knows about it unless you've been there. So tell us about how many short stories are in here.
A surprising number. Let's see.
$13.
24.
24. Wow.
Although one of them is one story in parts.
Oh, okay.
Where it changes who is narrating the story.
Oh, okay.
So you might count that as just one story, so then it would be 21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And over what period did you write some of these stories? Like what?
A couple of years.
Wow. Okay.
So the one that has multiple narrators is called Complex.
Okay.
And the initial character is this guy who's just moved into this apartment complex, and he's suspicious.
He's what?
Well, he's kind of a suspicious character.
Oh, suspicious character. Okay.
But people don't realize that because he seems so totally normal.
Okay.
And then the second part is, his sort of girlfriend. When she's starting to think there's something off about this guy. And then the third part is their neighbor who also believes there's something off about the guy.
Okay.
So when you write a short story or a novel, you're not really supposed to head hop. You're supposed to stick with one character.
Uh-huh.
But this story...
For at least short stories.
Yeah, especially for short stories. You're not supposed to hop from one person's head to the next person's head.
Oh.
Like, it's supposed to stick with just one...
One narrative.
Yeah.
One narrator.
Mm-hmm. I mean, every now and then you can successfully like have a little intro where it's one character and then you switch to the other. But it's kind of weird with short stories. You're supposed to follow a certain pattern. So actually, this story, it's a little bit inspired by some Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
Except it goes in a totally different direction than the Hitchcock movie.
So, what's some of your favorite writers, or what do you like reading?
Well, I have kind of eclectic tastes. Mostly, I've really gotten away from reading things that people recommend, like that are recommended in like newspapers and magazines, because I think most of them should never have been published in the first place.
Yeah, most of them just someone paid a lot of money or someone did something to make them sound good.
Yeah, it's really more of like it's like a marketing scheme.
Yeah,
where they just like pump this book up and then they pump it and they dump it. They get all this hype going, and then probably the publishing company buys a whole bunch of copies so it looks like they're a bestseller, and then they pulp them all, or most of them.
Wow. Wayne Dyer, I think it was Wayne Dyer. One of the writers like Wayne Dyer. I think it was him though. His first book, he didn't have a publisher, or he had a publisher, and he ended up buying them all from the publisher, but not letting the publisher know. Like he ordered them, and then I think it was Wayne Dyer. He drove around in his car. This was before the internet, and he would call bookstores and go, "Have you got this book by Wayne Dyer?" And they would go, "No." And he would call the next bookstore, "Do you have this book?" And he would call with different accents. He would call the bookstore up. And then he would show up and he would go, "I'm doing a tour for my new book. I'm Wayne Dyer." And they would go, "Oh, we've been getting a lot of phone calls." And he sold like hundreds of thousands out of the back of his car because all the books.
If you can afford to buy all your own books, that would work.
Yeah, but he sold them all because every time he'd give a talk, they would pump it up like he was a big guy because they've got all these calls from him, from different people that he would put. He would like do Indian accents and Spanish accents and stuff, and they would go, "Wow, all these people are calling about your book. It must be great."
So anyway, I've gotten away from reading those books that are like really hyped up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're so good. It's on like Oprah loves it and blah 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 blah.
Uh-huh.
So I've gotten away from reading those. I mostly just stick to reading things now that are old and it's established that if they're not good, that there's something about them that's compelling that has stood the test of time. So I've been reading like, some contemporary writers that I do like Donna Tartt, Peter Hoag, if I'm pronouncing that right, he's Danish. There's a mystery writer from Australia, actually originally South Africa, who's now deceased, Peter Temple. I liked his work a lot. I enjoy this one poetry collection called Baby I Don't Care. It's like it has like a film noir kind of feel to it. And the main character says all these like hilarious things like, I want to wear a satin evening gown and drive a steamroller. So things that like kind of don't make sense, but are kind of like film noir. It's like
just juxtaposition of outrageous things.
Yeah, let's throw the typewriter into the swimming pool, and
I had to read what did they freaking call it back in college? One of them was called The Most Handsome Dead Man, and it was about I think it was Marquez, and it was a guy who floated up on this island, and all the women on the island fell in love with him because he was bloated. And they all wanted to marry him, and they put him like in all these costumes.
I think I've read that story.
Was it by Marquez or was?
I think so.
Yeah, and then
definitely magical realism.
Yeah, magical realism, and then we had so many weird books. Like, I would read some of it, and I couldn't like make sense out of like where the fuck what is the point of the book. Some of them, they were really weird. But I actually wrote my first novel after taking a novel class, and I read like 7 or 8 books that I thought were good, but for some reason I felt I can write better than all of them. So I was like, I have to write a novel. So that's why I wrote my first novel. So does some of your writings, all mine seem to be semi-autobiographical. Are a lot of yours kind of autobiographical or about people you knew? Or
they always have at least one thing that either happened to me or to someone that I knew.
Yeah.
But strictly autobiographical, I wouldn't say necessarily.
No, okay.
Like, some are more true to my life than others, but, I wouldn't say, like, any character where it's like, that is me.
Mm-hmm. Is there any character in here that you like a lot, that you think maybe you're going to write another book with that character, or like a longer?
There's
Tell us about one of them.
One of the main character in the story I wrote called Heartless.
Mm-hmm.
And that one got the Audience Choice Award in a contest called Pen to Paper.
Oh, wow.
So he's a detective, and he's had like lifelong insomnia, which I get insomnia every now and then, but I did have a family member who
I have insomnia if I sit still.
she was plagued by insomnia.
Oh well.
But anyway, like this is kind of a condition that he's trying to hide it from everyone. He doesn't want anyone to know that he has it. Like he's trying to be a macho. So he's taking medications for it, and he discovers that he has, in a dream, he realizes that, when after he's drugged himself, that he thinks that he's taken the car out and hit someone.
Oh wow. You can't tell if it was a lucid dream or
something that really happened.
Yeah. Wow.
But he knows that, like, there's a guy in the hospital who's, like, he finds a case where it's very similar to what he remembers. It's like, did I kill someone on accident? So, of course, he decides, well, if I did, I'm going to have to frame someone else for it.
Oh, wow.
Why waste it?
Yeah.
So he decides to, frame a guy who's like a pedophile.
Oh, wow.
It's like 2 birds, 1 stone. That makes him sound kind of darker than he is. He's sort of more trying to do the right thing, but it's like, it's all messed up.
Oh, wow.
So I would like to write, like, the next installment of what happens. Like, does he get away with this chicanery, or are there consequences for this series of, let's say, illegal decisions?
Oh. Do you have anyone you don't have to say who it was, anyone in your family or in your friends that maybe did something illegal that no one knows, and maybe that's where the idea came, or just something that just totally came out of the blue?
No, I'd say it's pretty much out of the blue.
Okay.
I mean, my great-grandfather, there are some stories about him that he, may not have told everyone the whole truth about exactly who he was. He did successfully for a while convince everyone that he was in his late 20s when he was in his early 40s.
Oh, that's what I try to do.
Yeah, but he actually got people to believe that for a long time.
People do believe me. I'm in my 20s.
So it's like, well, why did he decide to do that?
Did he look really young like I do?
I haven't seen that many pictures of him.
Oh, okay.
Like, the pictures I've seen of him are all when he's older.
Oh, okay.
Like, theoretically, he looks a lot like my dad.
Okay.
Except bald. And so anyway, like, is there a direct parallel with this story? I wouldn't say exactly. Now, there are 2 other stories in this book that are also connected, and they are connected to a novel that I wrote.
Oh, okay.
Which
and what's the novel called?
The novel's called Strangers You Know.
Okay.
The 2 stories that are connected to that narrative are, the first one, like, I'm trying to think of chronologically, which one comes first. Okay, the Barton Boy would chronologically come first, and then the Missing Girl would be the one chronologically moving closer to the narrative of the novel.
Cool.
So, the Missing Girl actually features a character who, in the novel, in the very first chapter, is already deceased.
Oh.
As happens.
Yeah. So what do you hope people get out of your writing or your art? Or what do you I mean, I write music and I write books to hopefully touch people and to awaken them to wisdom that I feel like all my life I've read lots of books and I've studied all kinds of things, and I feel I have awarenesses that not everyone has on this planet. So with my music and my writing, I try to bring those awarenesses to people. What is your general? Is it more entertainment or is it more introspection, or what do you hope people gain or come away with?
Well, I want people to be entertained.
Okay.
But I also want them to learn something. I think most of my stories and novels are kind of from a perspective where the reader has to bring something to it.
Okay.
And hopefully get something out of it. I don't want to be pedantic about, like, this is exactly what you're supposed to learn or experience from this story, this novel. I want people to form their own opinions.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Well, I feel that way about my music, my writing. I have a point of view about what the song is about, some of them, but then other ones I want the people listening to my music to go, this song means a certain thing to me or makes me feel a certain way, and I even if it was totally different than my perspective on the song, it's like that's cool because it's giving them a different feel or a different meaning, which I don't. I got in this argument with a novel professor at my school, and he insisted that the story had a precise meaning or something, and we should find that meaning, not our perspective on that meaning or someone else's. And I think that's totally outrageous. I think, first of all, when someone writes something, they're writing it consciously, but there's also a subconscious element to everything you do that you can't fully explain by yourself. Or for me, I feel it's even channeled, some of it, from wherever it comes from, some wisdom beyond my body and being, sometimes in some of the songs and in my writing, which is my next novel I'm trying to write, which is totally, this is my cover of my first novel, which was called Myth Shattering. And it never got finished, and that artist wasn't famous, and now he's famous, so it's hard to get him to finish because he's all over the place. And he said he's going to finish someday when I am in the same city as him. He's going to do it while he's selling his art. He's going to do it in front of everyone. He's going to finish this, but we'll see if I ever meet him up again. But I'm trying to write a story about this whole religious and spiritual experience I did for 13 years in Japan, where I became an energy healer. And I never wanted to do channeling, but I started doing channeling. And not only that, I learned about quantum jumping, which is where you go to your self in another plane or another quantum reality. So they call it your doppelganger, which is your perfect self who knows how to do something you want to do, and you go to meet them and they teach you how to do it. And you do this through like this meditation thing. So I started doing that, and I met this future perfect being from way in the future that says he's me, and that's what the novel's going to be about. He comes back to save me from getting killed because he works for the Galactic Federation as a sleeper cell super soldier, and I don't know that I do because it's subconscious, and he's teaching me that in order for me to get to him, he has to keep me from getting killed.
My dad was telling me about this movie that he watched, where, like, he said it was half a comedy where there's this guy who's like a secret agent, and his son is like really lazy, but secretly he's been teaching his son how to be a secret agent like his entire life, even though the guy doesn't.
But he doesn't tell his son. He's
he never
doing
tells
that.
him. So then when all the bad guys come after them,
The son's ready.
Yeah.
So that's one of my possible novels in the future. I start writing little chapters, and I'm like, no, I want to change a book. So it took me only 2 years to write this novel, but I wrote for 7 months the first half, and then I had a 1-year relationship, and I couldn't write that whole time. And then right when that relationship ended, in 3 months I wrote the second half, because it was all writing in my head for that year that I didn't write. It was like brewing, and it went a whole different direction, the whole novel at the last half, which is I didn't expect, but I kind of. The same novel professor who told me there's the actual meaning of the book that you have to find, that the writer might not know, or he probably knows, but we can't talk to him because they're all dead. And he said, I gave him my novel, and he read the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. The last one first, the second to the last second, the third to the last third, and then he went that way for like the first 2 pages, last 2 pages, and he said he doesn't like the book. And I said, well, how can you fucking read the last 2 pages of a book and decide you don't like the book? But that was his style. He was from World War. He was like, I think he had shell shock from the Second World War, and he had a lot of weird ideas.
Well, I can't think of a parallel to that.
Have you ever heard of anyone reading the last few chapters to decide if they like a book?
No, I have not. But I was in a writer's group, and I feel like half the time I was unfairly critiqued.
Yeah, it's like stupid stuff like that. Let's just randomly flip to this page and see if we like it.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Like, I mean, critique is, like, it's fine to be critiqued, but at the same time, I just don't know about this writer's group. Like, most of their stories are very pedantic, and I couldn't really tell them that.
Remind me, because I'm a wordsmith, and for some reason I forgot the meaning of pedantic, and you said it 2 or 3 times. Remind for my Facebook and YouTube page followers that might not be literally intelligent and they forget words. Remind us what pedantic means.
Repetitive.
Okay, repetitive.
There might be a better way to define it.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, repetitive is mostly what I mean by that.
Like useless.
Well, they always had, like, most of their stories. It was all very I felt like a lot of them were about their own lives, but like kind of weird, eccentric things happening.
That was cool.
But it's fine to write what you know and write your life, but at the same time, maybe not too much. You want some distance. You want some things to happen that are not exactly, like, you're angry at your ex, so you're going to write this story where they fall into a volcano. It's like, oh, okay.
That would be fun. So, all the people watching the show, we're going to do a toast because it's going to be New Year's in China. Did you know it's going to be New Year's in China?
Year of the Ox.
We're a little early. Oh, is it the Year of the Ox? Do you know what you are? I'm a...
Ox.
Oh, you're an ox. Okay, so we're doing a toast with a little champagne for the Year of the Ox because it's coming up. And hopefully this won't blow anyone's eyes out.
Hopefully not.
Let's see. Usually you're supposed to do it with like a towel over it. But I like to be crazy and put holes in my roof. 1, 2, 3, here goes. Close your eyes. Oh, look at that. That's the first time I didn't have it smack on the walls.
Congratulations.
What is this one? Cook's. This is a commercial for Cook's Wine. We're not yet have any, the show doesn't have any sponsors yet, but if Cook's Wine wants to sponsor us, we're ready for sponsorships. We're going to see the masked woman, what she looks like under the mask.
Well,
She works she can't show herself because she works for the government. She's a secret agent woman.
No, it's just that my workplace is they're being real sticklers about trying to be safe. Like,
Yeah.
technically, they wouldn't even want me to do this interview, but I don't tell them everything.
Okay, yeah, we can't cheers.
So,
I drank before we cheers.
So, I'll do half of what they want me to do.
Yeah, luckily no one's wanted to wear their mask on the show because I didn't wear my mask any of the shows. But I'm cool with coming in, starting with the mask. But did you hear that they're now this week, the restaurants are all opening up again because Gavin Newsom's afraid he's going to lose. He's going to get pushed out of office because everyone's fighting against his lockdown. Mm-hmm. Which I think I want to eat at restaurants. I miss eating at restaurants, and when they
I want him to come through on that extra $600 for.
And I want $600, and I want the 2,000 something that the people in Congress said they were going to give us, and then they reduced it down to lower. Anyway, luckily I'm doing well financially during this pandemic. How's everything? Because you work for the library, you couldn't work as much.
Yeah, they cut my hours, so
yeah.
Well. It works out when you.
Have you been motivated to write during the?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I can't sit at home for long, so I haven't wrote as many songs. I go out and rollerblade on the beach, or I go to Balboa Park, and I just got new skates. I've been doing quad skates now.
Nice.
And during the summer I bought a boogie board all summer, and I brought like 3 or 4 boogie boards and 4 or 5 wetsuits, and I would find people on the beach to go boogie board with me. I made a lot of friends that way.
Well, I got an e-bike.
Oh, cool.
The city is doing a study on bike riding, so
it's part electric.
It's a program called Pedal Ahead.
Oh, cool.
So I've been doing a lot of e-bike riding.
Oh, that's cool.
But
so when you go uphill, it gives you a little assist, and you can go up all the hills and stuff. Wow.
But I found out about this program on my own. It wasn't through my employer. Like they weren't like, oh, you should sign up for this program. No. But I'm just glad I did. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I like bike riding anyway, but
it's hard to do when there's hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can do the hills.
And the misconception about the e-bikes is that they're faster than ordinary bikes. They're not. They're just easier.
Yeah, they're easier. Yeah, which it helps.
It's a very heavy bicycle, so you kind of need the engine to make it.
Yeah, I tried one of those e-bikes with the big battery right in the middle. It was heavy. And when I was in Japan, I was in Sendai, and this city was all hills. And the first time I did it, was so cool because I was like, wow, I can go up all these hills. Because I'd go down them, and then I'd get tired going up them on regular bikes, and then I'd walk up the hills. But I was able to go up all the hills, and it was, wow, this is fun. Because you still get a really good workout.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Partially because the bike's so heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are a lot of people who are on racing bikes, and they can shoot right past me. If I don't have the engine up to the third setting, but why would I have the engine on the third setting just so I can go faster than?
Yeah, and then you wear out the battery real quick.
Than spandex guy. Yeah.
I go on the boardwalk and I dance on my roller skates, and there's always these people go by so quick, and I've never ran into them, but I always dance around them and make them slow down because they're supposed to go only 8 miles an hour on the boardwalk, and they go way faster, and it's dangerous. So I try to slow them down by dancing in front of them, and they get mad at me.
That.
They get mad at me.
Yeah, I bet they do.
But I like doing that. It's fun. It's fun to mess with people that are trying to kill people with their bikes.
Well,
so far, I've not killed anyone, and I've not killed myself, so it's good.
Well, I've never ridden the bike on the boardwalk. No, it's just been all streets.
Yeah, I love going from the roller coaster in Mission Beach all the way to the pier
Mm-hmm.
and back. I do that at least every other day because I work in the morning. I deliver some groceries for Whole Foods, and then I go to the beach and go rollerblading or somewhere else and go swimming or something. And then I work a little in the evening, so I like to get that afternoon workout in. I actually went roller skating today in the afternoon.
Just checking my phone.
No problem. So we're going to talk about if you wrote a nonfiction book in the future, what subjects would you be interested in writing about?
I don't know that I would write about a nonfiction book.
Oh, really? But you wrote articles before, just...
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some really curious thing you would like to study. If, like, this publisher came to you and said, we want to hire you to write a book about the death of this person, or to write a book about the Roswell crash, or to write
There's so much research involved.
You know, okay, I did a lot of research for my one book that was 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
I produced. And I liked research at that time because I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
I loved going to libraries. I wouldn't like during the pandemic to go to libraries because
You
have to request it and you have to pick it up. And I like being in libraries because there's people around me. And that's how I loved it. I wrote my novel almost all in coffee shops and in bookstores because I like people, the energy of people, and I can feel like I'm in a community even though I'm not. I'm not talking to anyone, but I'm writing. I love that. But now that everything's closed, I just can't motivate myself to do it on my own. I'm not motivated that way.
I'm kind of the opposite.
You like to be away from people?
I'm like at home, like working on books and novels and like painting and trying to work on my new technique. I mean art technique, like just saying working on my technique by myself at home. Like it makes it sound kind of weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I sound weird as it is.
That's okay.
Half the time.
Did you know the definition of weird? The original definition of weird was of fate and destiny, and the second definition, the original, was inspiring a sense of the supernatural. So every time someone says I'm weird, I'm like, yeah, you finally figured me out.
Well.
So if you're weird in that respect, you're good. You're good to go.
I mean, one thing that would be kind of like, speaking of like nonfiction, it'd be interesting to do a book on like trees, I think.
Oh wow! Like how the bark changes over the season, or how the rings grow differently.
Different kinds of trees, but the thing is that
what kind of bugs they get in them, or what kind of squirrels are climbing up them.
Yeah, and like how they communicate. But
that would be cool. How the trees communicate.
There have actually been several really good books about trees recently. So, like, being able to add something to that, I don't really think. So
you read those? You like?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about trees.
One of them is like The Secret Life of Trees. I'm planning on reading The Overstory. It's kind of on my shelf to read, but I haven't gotten to it yet. And then there's another book, Around the World in 80 Trees.
That's cool.
So it's about...
The only thing I read about trees was that lady from Africa who won the Nobel Prize, the Warwagi or whatever her name was. She planted all the trees in Africa. What was her name? Margot Wagawagi?
Well, probably not every single tree in Africa, but...
No, she started a tree planting campaign and went all over, and she inspired women to be the lead front of that organization, and she really... I can't remember her name now. Margot, anyway.
I would like to...
You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I'd like to help you out, but I can't.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
I can't. Yeah.
But she did plant a lot of trees.
So, sometimes it's hard to find something in nonfiction where you could contribute to the when there are already so many people who are really good and they've already
studying that field, which is weird because when I came back from Japan, when I was still in Japan, Tito Ortiz is my friend, and I tried to get a hold of him, and I asked him if I can be the author of his, to write his book. And shortly after that, he decided to write a book. So maybe I planted the seed for him, and he wrote his life story.
Probably.
So yeah, but I was hoping, because I knew him and I knew Huntington Beach, and we were both grew up punk rockers in the same neighborhood, and I felt I can relate to it, and it would be cool to study that whole his life and his history. And I knew his mom really well. She was kind of like a babysitter for me many years, and that would be something I'd like to study. So I hope to write a nonfiction book in the future, but if I did, I would hope to get someone to fund me to do it so I could do the research, because I would want to really research something. And that would be really fun to be able to get paid to research, because I haven't. I paid money to go research when I went to college for 10 years, junior colleges, and then at university. I paid a lot of money.
Well,
so I would love to get paid to do research,
another thing
about a subject.
One thing I have been doing lately is grant applications, because
wow.
for projects
And you said you got that one for the bike. You got one for wow.
Well, technically that wasn't a grant, but the city was giving them to different people. As part of the programs that they're studying people, how they use the bikes and that kind of thing.
So do you know of any grants for someone? I was an energy healer for 9 years. I had a radio show. People called in from around the world. I did energy healing. I would love to find a grant for someone who wants to scientifically study the phenomena of energy healing. And I know a lot of people have already done it. They've spent millions of dollars and they got grants and stuff. But I would love to be part of that, because I did energy healing long distance on all my clients for over 8 years, and they had great results.
Well, I've never specifically looked for that.
There's probably something there, huh?
But if you were really interested in it, maybe you could research the people who are working on projects on that, and then become like an assistant or part of the
study.
That's one way to, sometimes it's frustrating to do that, though, because you already know things about it.
Yeah, I'm already like proficient in all the energy modalities.
Well,
But you have to lower yourself to get into the door, and
sometimes, yeah. Like, I remember, before I did the short story collection, I have a novel that I have 2 novels now, but I'm, trying to get published.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I remember I was asking a writer for advice on that, and he was just like, well, join a writer's group. Yeah, that worked out really well. So I ended up doing like more than one writer's group, and I think I'm kind of done with writer's groups now. Hopefully.
I've never joined a writer's group. I should, maybe.
So anyway, you have to do your research.
There we are. We're back online on Facebook. Went offline for a moment. So you want to talk about other things, like what's when the pandemic first hit, you had to stop working.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have you known people that have personally had COVID?
Yes.
Oh well, because I hardly know anyone.
Yes, some family members, but they recovered. And a coworker, he also recovered, but members of his family have passed away from it. Actually, I believe that I had COVID, a form of COVID in 2018.
Okay.
I used to work for a school for international students, and all these symptoms are very similar to what I experienced.
Oh, well, so it was some type of coronavirus, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I worked for an international school. Did you work for the one in Old Town?
Yeah.
That's funny. I hung out with I met a girl that went there from
Mhm.
Japan, and she used to work at the Thai restaurant in Del Mar, and it burned down.
Oh my.
So she stopped working there. But I used to go deliver for the Thai restaurant. That's how I met her. And I speak Japanese, so I started speaking Japanese to her. I was thinking of having one of my family members go there because they're not fluent in English yet when they come to back to America. How is that school?
Well, it's been enough time since I've worked there that
You're okay to talk about it.
I don't know where they're at right now because
Everything's changed with the COVID.
With the COVID, and I don't know how things are with them.
Yeah.
I believe that they are open, so that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't really know.
Or was it a good place to work when you worked there? Because I was actually thinking of applying for a job there because I was a teacher for 13 years.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have to have?
Oh, I wasn't a teacher though. I was working student services and library.
Oh, okay. How long have you been working in libraries?
Longer than I want to admit. Enough time that people tell me I should get.
You should be a librarian.
I should get a library.
You should have your own library.
The only problem is, it's quite expensive to get a library sciences master's degree.
Oh. Okay.
And actually, there are several opportunities within the context of my employer where I would make a comparable amount without having to get a master's degree.
Wow.
So,
if you decided to get a master's degree, like when I worked for Wells Fargo and I worked for Union Bank, they allowed me to go study at night for free, doing anything related to banking or computers or financing or anything like that. I can take all these classes for free. Does the library or the government allow you to like try to help you during the pandemic to like maybe get a degree?
I was taking a class called the Interactive Media Certificate Program last year, but the city wasn't involved in that.
Oh, okay.
That was just on my own. But it's been quite useful because I've done some outreach videos and things like that for my employer. So,
what's your favorite library you've ever worked at, or ever been? First, what's your favorite library you've ever worked at, and what's your favorite library you've ever been to?
I would like to visit some of the cool exotic libraries that are in like the travel magazines. There are some really intense, cool libraries.
The Pasadena libraries. What's it called? The Huntington Library?
Yeah. I've been there.
Oh, you've been there?
Nice.
They found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1987 in the basement. There's some basement there that has microfiche, and they found the original.
So let's see. I like to go to like the Oxford Library.
That's in Oxford, England. Wow. I imagine that would be a nice library.
I've heard there are some cool libraries in France and Germany.
So if you went to a really nice library, what would be like the first section you would want to look at?
And the main public library in New York City is always a good.
Oh, it's a good one.
Good place to visit. That might be the nicest library that I've actually gone to.
Which one was the nicest one? The one in New York?
The one in New York.
Okay, wow. Did you live in New York?
No.
Oh, okay. You're just visiting?
Visiting. Let's see. Kind of lost my train of thought.
No problem.
Libraries.
So, what's the coolest? That's the coolest one you've been to, and then what's one you worked at that you liked the most?
Well, I guess I should say the one I work for now.
Oh, that's cool. Which one do you work for now?
The public library.
But you go to different branches, or you're at one branch more often?
Well, Mostly it's a one branch situation, but you know, you float a little bit.
Okay.
Kind of depending on what they need.
The one I grew up in Huntington Beach, I went to the Huntington Beach Library. It's in Central Park. It's got 3 or 4 stories, and it has this waterfall going down the middle, and you can study and listen to the water while you're studying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know one in San Diego that's really like big and beautiful like that. Maybe the downtown one's
The downtown library is
pretty nice. Yeah.
The Point Loma Library is pretty nice.
I've been to the Point Loma one.
But right now with the pandemic, you can't.
You can't go into any of them. Yeah.
Unless you're working there.
Unless you like go to pick up stuff for research and stuff, which I want to. I just like to research with people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When I did a lot of research at the UCI library, and I did some research at different ones, I went down to the basement floors where they have those old microfiche, and you can look up weird old books from the 1800s and 1700s, and they're no longer in print. And I found some weird books on the subjects I was looking for, which just blew my mind that people had them on microfiche still. I mean, can you imagine? There's so many books that have been written that never got into libraries or never got a professional publisher that probably were incredible books, and then somehow some people found those books and put them on microfiche way back in the days, and then like one was called From a Farmer. It didn't say who the author was because it was about the growing of hemp. When I was doing hemp research, and it was just like, for the liberty of our nation, we need to grow hemp and everything like this. And the line that I found really funny is it said, for life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, which was the original, before they added happiness, because the original United States was all about acquiring property for the landowners. So it was life, liberty, and the pursuit of property was the original use of the words. And then all of a sudden they decided...
I'll take your word for it.
They decided to put the happiness, which I like happiness better than property. So what's your dreams for the future with your writing or this pandemic or California, or if someone gave you $1 million and let you do something great for the world, what would you do? Or if your books are all successful and you're doing great novels.
Well, that would be great.
Would you just write more and more books, or would you do something?
I would like to write more books.
Yeah.
Work on art more. I like working for the library, but if I didn't have to worry about
money,
maybe I wouldn't work for the library.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe I get bored, but I'd like to try working in film.
Oh, me too. On one of the shows we had an actor who's a director, and we had a comedian who's a director, and one of them is going to be filmed in this room. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a short movie, but I'm still talking them out of. They want to be able to bring shoes in the house, and they said we'll wash the shoes, we'll clean, and I'm still fighting them that I think it would be good for the funniness and the craziness of the media to have it in a place where you can't wear shoes. Because the guy has a crazy ninja wife who's from Japan. And she will cut your feet off if you wear your shoes in the house.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to push it towards that way, because I'm still afraid they're going to bring shoes in the house and they're not going to be clean. So after living 13 years in Japan, the idea of shoes in the house seems so barbaric to me. So did you know I tried to run for Congress this last one.
I didn't know. I was going to say I've never been to Japan.
Oh, Japan, it's very...
But
I think you would like it.
I'm hoping to go sometime soon.
After the pandemic, I think you would like it.
I have a relative who... I don't know her exact degree of fluency, but she knows Japanese.
Yeah, you get fluent the longer you live there, and you get to use the language.
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know.
Yeah, how her level is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, I lived there for 13 years, so it took me like 8 years. I studied for 3 years before going, but I started studying at 31 years old, which is late to learn a foreign language. I never learned a foreign language, except a little bit of German. I learned for a little while because I dated a girl in Germany. But it was hard learning late. All my co-students that were with me were 18 or 19 when they started learning, so their brains were like absorbing it faster than me. So it took me actually 6 or 7 years living there to fully get the grasp of using full sentences and communicating deeply.
I will straight up tell you, I've never had a grasp on learning languages.
It's hard.
It's never something that has worked out for me.
Oh, wow. So did you have to take a foreign language in school?
Yeah.
I took Latin. What'd you take?
Spanish.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little left-right brain dynamic, but learning languages just didn't happen.
Oh, for the first 3 years studying Japanese, it hurt my head so bad to study. It was like someone stabbing me in the head.
It's like English has maxed me out.
Well,
that's as far as I got.
So, do you think if you became a really successful, when you become, let's put out the positive for the future, when you become a best-selling novelist or short story writer or whatever you write, if you became a visiting professor at a university, where would you love to teach as a visiting professor of a famous writer? You're a famous writer. You get like this. You get a 6-month stay at a nice university to teach the kids how to write books. I'm asking crazy questions. I always ask crazy questions on my show.
It's hard. It's difficult to say.
Yeah.
Let's see. I lived in LA for a while. I didn't really like LA that much. No, I've been to San Francisco, and I like San Francisco, but
I've only been there for protest marches.
But it was weird because the whole time I was there, the weather was amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's usually gloomy.
Everyone was like, the weather is so nice. This is so unusual. And I don't... Like, Mark Twain has a quote, like, the most miserable winter of my entire life was in San Francisco. In San Francisco.
It's like England. It's all gloomy. If you lived on Alcatraz, it'd be like gloomier. Did you go to Alcatraz?
No.
Oh man, I want to go to Alcatraz.
So I could see going to San Francisco for 6 months, even if the weather was terrible.
That'd be cool.
You know, like 6 months of bad weather could probably be endurable.
Yeah.
You know.
What schools are over there?
It might be kind of like UC Berkeley.
Oh, UC Berkeley's in San Francisco? It's above it's in Berkeley.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's close.
Berkeley, San Francisco.
Yeah, okay.
They're like...
Yeah, I would like to go to...
It's practically like saying
almost.
San Diego, you know...
And
Chula
Ramona?
Vista.
Oh, it's okay. Wow, is it that close? Yeah. Berkeley? I didn't know that. Damn.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been there, so maybe my geography is way off.
Yeah, I just drove buses from Orange County for the protest marches. I was in charge of I organized them.
Yeah.
Against the war beginning in Iraq before it started. And we had huge buses of people.
I didn't drive buses, but I did protest against the war.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's hard to say, like, you know.
So do you think the primaries were stolen?
This one?
Yeah. Do you think Bernie should have won?
Oh.
He was ahead in everything. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit up, and then all of a sudden they figured out how to like not have a debate, not have a this, and not have a that, and then all of a sudden this guy was in last place as in first place. It's like, wow, what did they do that for? That was a good trick.
Well, I can't really speak to that because I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
So I can't really make an off the cuff like statement about that. Now I have some friends who probably
would say it.
Would say that, but I'm just glad the end result was
not the orange man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
for comedians, it was a good 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
The comedians had a good... They got tired of it, though. Like, after 2 years of it, they're like, okay, everyone knows he's doing some crazy stuff, and it's no longer funny.
Well,
It's getting too crazy.
Trust me, Joe Biden will say something or do something dumb.
Oh, wait, there'll be good comedy after this.
There'll be some moments. I'm not trying to say, like, anything bad. I just mean, like, he is well known for...
For, sticking his foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
And misquoting things, or not saying where he got the quote from, and reading someone else's reading, and then all of a sudden everyone finds out, oh, this is something that someone said in Europe a long time ago. Identical word for word. He's like, oh yeah. My speechwriter didn't tell me that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to say he's, like, a bad person, but I'm like, yeah, he is, like, you know, he, like, twisted his ankle recently. So it's like wait for it, the comedy will come.
I just figure they're gonna somehow find a way for him to catch a disease or die, and then that lady who put all those people in jail, who's the vice president, is gonna be the new commander in chief, and she's gonna be worse than Hillary Clinton. Sorry to make it like seem like this. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And all my characters behind us they're all like... I just decided to put all these characters up there today. Because it was... Every time I looked at the video, it was always so blank right here. And one of the shows, I had them all on this, and we were sitting back, and they kept falling on us. So I just thought, you know, I got a unicorn. I got all kinds of... This is a really crazy head. And I don't know what she's up to. She's like a... I don't know. Just something I did today. So, we're going to wrap it up really soon. Is there anything last... Do you want to read any of your things, or do you want to talk about your novel, or do you want to talk about your artwork, or how people can get a hold of you? I'm going to put links on all the videos of your artwork and your how to get your books.
Great.
But do you have any last minute things you want to say?
Well, if you've ever thought to yourself, I want to read a book about a werewolf in Chernobyl, this could be the book for you.
Okay.
You know, if you're about to yourself, I want to read a book, or I want to read a short story about a detective with insomnia who might have killed someone.
That's the book.
So, you know, I'm hoping that I have a mystery novel, which I'm hoping will be published soon.
Okay.
And I have another story. It's about a psychic who uses her abilities to gamble.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that one is, you know, out there looking for representation.
Mm.
There's a possible publisher, but, you know, too soon to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, I'm hoping that both of them will be published soon. And that my grants will come through.
Okay, so everyone get a hold of her. I'm going to put all their links. That's all for the 12th edition of Live from Normal Heights.
Sorry to wear my mask
and
the
I
whole
didn't
time.
do what I'd done on all the other shows because I didn't want to scare the person who works for the government. But I'm going to end with the final... I'm wearing an African tribal clothes today, and I'm wearing my native tribe, which is the Cherokee. And I'm going to do a peace pipe offering to the spirits of the underworld, or the overworld, or the beyond this world. And she didn't
Whichever
know.
world is closest.
She didn't know I do this on the show, but this is called the nighttime version, and that when it's over there, it's called the PG version where we don't do this. But since I didn't do it yet, my pipe broke. What happened?
That's what they all say.
What happened? Oh, shizzle. Oh, I'm running out of juice or something.
Well, it's not quite as funny as all the animals falling on us.
Love you guys.